again?
Well, that will be for the end.
Huh?
That order will be for the end.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to mute everyone. Hi, Facebook world. We are the Clewiston Chamber of Commerce, and I am here with your candidates for Hendry County Sheriff for the primary election. There is another candidate that will be on the ballot come November for the general election, but Mr. Garcia is running as a nonpartisan, no party affiliation. So because of that, he's not on the primary, he's not on the ballot for the primaries. So these are the gentlemen who are going to be on the ballot for your upcoming primary election. Early voting opens on Monday. So for more information on that, visit Brenda Hoots, visit her website, Hendry County Supervisor of Elections website. So good morning, and we're glad you're watching, or good afternoon if you're watching it later today, or good evening if you're watching it tonight. So we're going to drop this on our Facebook page and leave it there for the duration of election season. We'll probably push it to the top a couple times just so that it stays fresh on everybody's feed and stuff like that. So gentlemen, one at a time, we've been over kind of what this layout's going to look like, just so our viewers know. Everybody is muted right now except for me. And as we go through, I'll unmute you and, let you answer. I've asked the candidates to keep their responses to roughly 2 minutes, pretty close to 2 minutes, just so that we can get through a decent amount of material. So Mr. Jackson, I am unmuting you. Hopefully. Let's see if my computer cooperates today. Are you able to speak yet, Mr. Jackson? It says you're still muted. We are having some technical difficulties. Can you try to unmute yourself? Okay, there we go.
You got me?
I got you now. Okay, so question number 1, Mr. Jackson, please tell us your full name, where you're currently employed, and how does your current employment add to your qualifications to serve as Hendry County Sheriff?
My name is Johnny Jackson. At this moment, I am retired from Palm Beach County Sheriff. Qualification I have is I have 29 years in law enforcement. I started my career with Henry County SO as a road patrolman before moving on. Upon completing 26 years there, I worked in areas such as road patrolman, community policing, and the director of the Police Athletic League. I think in Clewiston, Harlem area. I went to high school at Clewiston High School. After completion of Clewiston High School, I studied at Itawamba Junior College and then at Delta State University.
Excellent, excellent. All right, thank you so much. We are going to now unmute, which seems to be taking a few moments, Mr. Hedrick. There we go, I've got you going. So same question to you, if you'll tell us your full name, where you're currently employed, and how does your current employment add to your qualifications to serve as Hendry County Sheriff?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, and thank you.
Morning.
My name's Pete Hedrick. I'm currently employed at the Lee County Sheriff's Department, where I've been for the last 26 years. My current assignment is I'm the watch commander, which puts me in charge of the daily operations of the 7th largest sheriff's department in the state of Florida. So daily, I'm in charge of the sheriff's department operations. We have probably over 150 people on the street at one time. There's a lot of moving components. It puts me kind of at the tip of the spear. I'm out with the men and women of law enforcement, and I'm still interacting with the citizens. So I get a good view of what is going on currently right now and what the community needs and wants and what's current in law enforcement. But I also get an overview of the sheriff's department and the services that we can provide to the people of Southwest Florida. So I think that being able to be in a commanded position now helps me understand what the sheriff needs and what the wants of a community are.
Okay. Thank you. Tico, let me unmute you. Are you able to speak? Let me make sure I can hear you, Tico.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, I've got you. So please tell us your full name, where you're currently employed, and how that adds to your qualifications to serve as Hendry County Sheriff.
Okay. Well, I'm Tico Salgado. I'm currently on leave of absence of the Glades County Sheriff Office, so I make campaign full time.
Okay.
Well, I was fortunate enough to work for an agency that allowed me to explore and work all areas of the Sheriff Office during my 15 years there, from front desk, building and grounds, correction to road patrol. I know what's required and expected of all these positions, and being experienced in all of these various areas are guaranteed the successful operation of an agency as a whole.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much. I'm going to put you back and unmute our incumbent, Sheriff Steve Whidden. Tell us your full name, where you're employed, and how that adds to your qualifications to serve or to continue to serve as Hendry County Sheriff.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. All right. Again, I'm Sheriff Steve Whidden, Hendry County Sheriff. A little bit about my background. I started off in 1997 at the city of Albany, Georgia, as a road patrolman. During that time, the city of Albany had the highest murder rate in the nation, which allowed me to gather a lot of great experience in a short amount of time. I moved back to Hendry County and went to work with the Hendry County Sheriff's Office in 1999, where I started out as a road deputy. I worked my way up into general crimes. I was a narcotics officer agent here for a long time. I was on the SWAT team for many years. I was the actual sniper for the team. I left here in 2005, where I went to work with the Clewiston Police Department from 2005 until I took office here in 2009. During that time, I was actually a DEA task force agent, where I got a lot of great experience on the federal level. I actually did some undercover work down in Jamaica, where we brought a lot of narcotics back here and made, I believe, 14 indictments. So got a lot of great experience. My experience and what qualifies me, I believe, is my record. You know, we have a 47.5% reduction in crime here. We've only increased the budget 1.9% when you take out all the mandatory increases. So we've done a lot of great things here, and I think I'm the best qualified. Like Mr. Hedrick said, you know, I'm out with my guys, men and women, every day. But the difference is I also have an overview of the sheriff's office, but it's here at this sheriff's office, the one we're running for. You know, I'm the only one that's dedicated my career here, that works here and lives here. So I'm proud of that fact.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. So now what we're going to do, gentlemen, is we're going to roll first question to Mr. Hedrick, and then Mr. Jackson will circle back to you and you'll be final answer. And we'll do that throughout the duration. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Mr. Hedrick. There we go. With the city of Clewiston, this is the next question. With the city of Clewiston having local law enforcement, how will you work to ensure a good working relationship between the two agencies?
I've been fortunate enough that I've spoken to the chief and the assistant chief, and I think we all agree that for the relationship to go forward, it has to be based on cooperation and communication. We have to be able to talk with each other as equals, sit down in the same room and be able to discuss our problems. I've been able to talk with the chief and the assistant chief, and I believe that our law enforcement views mesh very well. So I think that we'll be able to work together. And what I look forward to is that we've discussed many exciting avenues that we can benefit, not just the people of Clewiston, but the people of Hendry County as a whole. Clewiston is a smaller department, and while I understand that they don't have their own narcotics unit or SWAT team, that by using their personnel and augmenting what we have at the sheriff's department, it'll strengthen our narcotics unit. We're low man right now, only 2 people in the narcotics unit. They can assist us with personnel. We can raise that number, be able to more effectively investigate these crimes. They can augment our SWAT team. They've got officers that want to do this job and can assist. I think we should do that and reach out to them and build these partnerships. Also, we'd like to be able to join forces with crime scene dispatch to be able to more accurately dispatch our crimes. There was a call that went out last night in Clewiston of a suicide attempt. And because of miscommunications or wrong information was given to Clewiston PD and the wrong house was entered. These are the kinds of mistakes that we can't afford. And that if we can get our communication centers together and build that partnership, people will be able to avoid these kind of mistakes. I'd also like to be able to take the schools that are inside the city limits of Clewiston and return those back to Clewiston and have their SROs take care of their own schools. Right now, the Sheriff's Department struggles to fill their SRO positions, and they currently fill them with overtime. That's costly to the department. It's costly to our taxpayers. So I'd like to see Clewiston take that responsibility over, and the chief has said that they're willing to do that.
Okay, that's your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You pushed the buck there. Thank you. Let me go to Tico. So again, the same question to you, Mr. Salgado. With the city of Clewiston having local law enforcement, how will you work to ensure a good working relationship between the 2 agencies?
First off, the Clewiston Police Department is vital to our area. So we'll focus on maximizing our potential shared resources, like a centralized dispatch center and possibly using their department as a substation. Doing this, we can get rid of our current substations in Clewiston and relocate to a more needed centralized area like Pioneer or Montura. An open line communication with CPD is the key to ensuring a work relationship that we so badly need. Regardless of CPD being separate law enforcement agencies, we're still in it together. Now we'll include them in everything.
Very good, thank you. I am going to unmute Sheriff Whidden. Sheriff Whidden, with the city of Clewiston having local law enforcement, how will you work to ensure a good working relationship between the 2 agencies?
Well, first of all, I keep hearing that there's this rift between the sheriff's office and, I'd heard that a while back, but I just want to say that, we actually work very well with the Clewiston Police Department.
I've lost my visual on you, Sheriff.
Yeah, I know. People are calling in. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, we actually work very well with the Clewiston Police Department. I mean, almost on a daily basis, we back up their units on calls. There was a problem when they went, they didn't get on the same radio system. And we actually gave them our radios to put in the car so that we could communicate back and forth. In case they get in trouble or we get in trouble, we can work together on that. We conduct all of their DUI breathalyzer tests on our intoxilizer. Our technician comes in and does it every time they make an arrest. We're constantly offering assistance on major crimes. Back when we were talking about building a new building for the sheriff's office, a substation in Clewiston, we actually had the designs built to actually bring the city of Clewiston Police Department in back before they did their building. Mr. Hedrick and Tico, they keep talking about the 911 center. Well, that's up to Clewiston. We've offered on numerous occasions, as of most recently, just a couple months ago, where we had a meeting with the city mayor, the manager, the assistant chief, and the chief. And actually,
yeah, that was here in my building.
Yes, I had called that meeting because I heard there was a rift or something was going on. So we wanted to get together and make sure we work everything out. But we can only offer to consolidate their dispatch. And it would save Clewiston a ton of money, but that's up to them. If they want to have their dispatch, that's their right to do so. But, we make the offer. So as far as dispatch giving the wrong information, I have to look into that because it all depends on the information that we're given, and we relay that exact information. So that may not be our dispatchers. That may be wrong information given to us, which happens quite often.
10-second warning.
Yeah, as far as the SROs, the Clewiston's budget is about $2 million. I don't know how they would be able to fund when they're already struggling in the city with tax dollars to ensure that they have SROs. And the main
that's
thing
your
is,
time. I'm sorry. I hate to have to, it's such an awkward,
no
it's
problem.
such an awkward thing to have to do.
My phone's going to keep, the visuals going to keep going out because people are calling just left.
Oh,
and
no,
right.
you're
I'm
fine.
sorry.
You're fine. Okay, Mr. Jackson. I always have trouble unmuting you. Jeez Louise. Okay, there we go. Now, the same question to you. With the city of Clewiston having its own local law enforcement, how will you work to ensure a good working relationship between the two agencies?
Well, as your sheriff, I will meet with me and my undersheriff will meet with the chief and assistant chief of Clewiston, where we can sit down a roundabout table and come up with an idea of how we can get along.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So with our next question, it goes first to Mr. Salgado. Mr. Salgado, do you have a community outreach / education plan? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I don't know the current status of the Explore or Dare program, but I do know that there are both vital programs for our youth. The Explore program needs to expand beyond LaBelle. We could create zone-like stations so more of our youth can benefit from it. Right now, we have youth from Hendry County going to Glades County for the program offered there because it's closer for them. If elected, I will look into finding a solution for this issue as well as creating similar programs.
Wonderful, thank you. Sheriff Whidden, we're back to you. Do you have a community outreach and/or education plan?
Yes, ma'am. But first, I want to clarify something. Our explorers go to Glades County to assist them. We've had a program for decades here. They just started their Explorer program last year. So I just want to clarify that. So I don't want any misinformation given out. But yes, ma'am. Back in 2010, we concentrated on community policing and building trust. We were able to hire 4 deputies to fill that function within our community. In 2013, we placed deputies in every school, which very few sheriffs in the state of Florida has done that. We support and work with the Harlem Building Trust Coalition. They hold yearly law enforcement appreciation days for us. We have a full-time crime prevention deputy. We have the volunteers and policing program we've started, which reaches out countywide. We have the Explore program, which we're very proud of, and we have grown that program tremendously. We put the Montura deputy out there, who's a liaison, plus a shift deputy. We started the Kids Fun Days as a community outreach. We participate in the back to school programs. We have the pastoral outreach in our jail. We also started the jail GED program. We purchased all the tablets, and as soon as the COVID is over, we're starting that full blown. We opened the gun range when I took office, which was previously closed to the public. We offered concealed weapons courses. We offered Citizens Academy and numerous other things I know I'm forgetting, but we have done a tremendous amount of community outreach with the sheriff's office.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Jackson, my mute friendly fella. Do you have a community outreach and/or education plan?
My is the Police Athletic League, which I will implement into the community. And with the community Police Athletic League is that we give every kid the opportunity to compete in the sports that they desire. And through that, we're able to keep up with their grades, talk with their parents, and so forth. I also will keep the sport program going, and along with the cadet program. Through the Police Athletic League, we'll be able to work with local organizations that already have their community outreach intact.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Hedrick, we're going to unmute you. Do you have a community outreach and/or education plan?
Yes, ma'am, I do. But the first thing that I would concentrate on is sheriff is to make sure that we're providing the basic functions that law enforcement are responsible for. Do we have adequate deputies on the road? Do we have adequate detectives to do your cases? And after we make sure that we have the right manpower on the street. For a long time here at the Hendry County Sheriff's Department, we've had 4 deputies on the east side and 4 deputies on the west side. When you have such a low personnel out on the street, it's hard for deputies to engage in community policing because they're running from call to call to call. So if we can increase the number of deputies we get on the street, then we can really invest in what is truly community policing, where officers are able to get out of their car and interact with the public and solve problems. The police officers are not just seen to come in there and make arrests and then disappear. The officers need to be part of the community. They need to have a length of service in that community so that people know who their community policing deputy is. So that's the first thing I'd like to do, is make sure that we get our house in order and that we have adequate personnel to be able to fund and truly do community policing. Then back to the Explorer program, the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department are currently running the same operation. I'd like to see that these join with each other. That way we can better fund both groups and get more support to the kids, and more kids will join.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And we started that question with Mr. Salgado, so we're going to be moving on. Sheriff Whidden, let me unmute you. Okay, there we go. With the unfolding of recent events across the country in regards to racial tensions between the African American community and law enforcement, do you believe we have these same issues locally? If so, what will you do to rectify that problem?
No, ma'am, I do not believe we have the same issues locally. I've prided myself on the fact that we try to stay ahead of the bar on different things before they gain national attention. We've done a lot of that. The de-escalation is a prime example. Last year we put out our 5-year plan, and we talked about how we're training in de-escalation tools, and we're working. Our deputies are trained to deal with mentally handicapped and mentally challenged people. So we're staying ahead of the game where we need to be on that. But I tell you, again, I don't believe we have the same issues. And the reason is that I've always demanded respect from my deputies to the public. And, one way that I've ensured that they do this, and I'm the only sheriff in the surrounding counties that has them, is the body cameras. Because in the past, when you get a complaint from somebody, if you ask a deputy, and they said, no, sir, it did not happen. Well, then you tell the person, hey, he said it didn't happen. Well, then we're all liars, and they start talking, and it festers. So now with the body cameras, I can say, well, listen, I've looked at it. You're more than welcome to look at it. And when they do, they realize, hey, it didn't happen the way they said it happened. So, we hold the deputies accountable to our public, and to, in the Black community especially. We treat everyone with respect, and I demand that. So, no, we do not have that issue here, and I'm not going to allow anything to fester. I like to stay on top of it before it gets out of hand.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jackson, the same question to you. With the unfolding of recent events across the country in regards to racial tensions between the African American community and law enforcement, do you believe we have these same issues locally? If so, what would you do to rectify the problem?
First of all, yes, I do believe we have that. And what I would do to rectify it is that I would place my community policing unit inside the community that having problems. And the reason I will place them in that is so they can have a working relationship with that community. And from that, and all we're trying to do is that to make sure that they have trust in us as well as we have trust in them. And by doing that, I think the tension between the sheriff department and the community will go away.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Mr. Hedrick, the same to you. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, ma'am, I've got it.
Okay, I feel like I'm wasting a lot of time repeating the questions.
I appreciate it. No. And I do think that race is an issue in today's society. I think if we ignore it, then we're not serving the problem and getting to the problem. I think law enforcement needs to learn to be inclusive, and we need to be able to understand that in our hiring and in our promotional process. I think that a law enforcement agency should be reflective of the community that it serves. And as a sheriff, that you should strive every day to try to make sure that your department represents your community to the whole. I think that what we forget in law enforcement is perception is reality. So if people in a community perceive law enforcement as not being helpful, as not being there to assist them, that only they sweep in, make arrests, and then they leave, then that is their reality. So as law enforcement, we have to, even if we go there with the best intentions, we have to make sure that we're making sure that our message is clear, that we're here to help, that we're here for the long term, and that we care about a community. And I think if you see an investment in a community, if you place a substation where it's needed, not within the city limits, that the people of these communities will start to see that, yes, even from the top down, from the sheriff himself, that they care about that. And that's being present, going to community events, and being there with the community.
Thank you so much. Mr. Salgado, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Yes, we do have these same issues here. I currently acknowledge that there is racism here in Hendry County. We need to come together and have a shared vision for the unity we need. For starters, to help in providing a solution to the problem. We need to offer 100% professionalism at all times. We need to bring back community policing and a better patrol zone to provide familiar faces. We need to begin openly communicating with all citizens and provide fair and equal treatment towards everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salgado. Okay, so the next question, we start back up. Did Mr. Jackson go first on that one? I think I forgot. No, Sheriff Whidden went first. Okay, so let me unmute you, Mr. Jackson. You are in first place again. As sheriff, how would you work to ensure transparency between the sheriff's department and the community?
As sheriff, first of all, I'll get with the local community leaders, as well as the pastor of the community and the community itself, and have meetings for we can find out a solution to what we need to do to ensure that our community is safe. The community that I live in is not safe at all. I mean, on a daily basis, we're having shooting, we're having selling of drugs, we're having even murders. We have unsolved murders that haven't been solved since the last time I ran. That was 4 years ago. So my thing is that I can have meetings with the community, as well as the leaders of the community and the pastor, to see what we can come up with as far as minimizing the crime that has happened in my community.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Hedrick, the same question to you. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, ma'am, I've got it. I think the first thing for transparency and what it means for me is that you should be able to understand what goes on at your sheriff's department at all time, and it should be easy for people to find this out. I can tell you during this process for me, during the campaign trail, that I've tried to find out more about the budget for the sheriff's department, and it's not readily available. This kind of information should be easy for people to see. And if I was the sheriff, on our website, you'd be able to see my budget, not just the line items, but exactly how I spend your money. The sheriff is famous now for saying that he's raised the budget 1.9% over 11 years. It's just not true. Over the last 5 years, the budget has raised over 26%. And he'll say that he's not responsible for those other raises, but he's the sheriff. He's the one in charge. These raises have happened during his watch. So I think it's important to tell people the truth. This is how much our budget is raised. And I think when you put that on the website and you're open and honest with people, they understand when you need more money and when you don't need more money. You'll get more support from the department. If you look on his website or try to find out his organizational chart and find out who's in charge of the East District or the West District, or who's in charge, this kind of transparency needs to be available so that the people know who they go to when they have a problem and can hold people accountable. So I think just that easy step, we can bring transparency to the sheriff's department just through small steps like that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Salgado, the same question to you. As sheriff,
I
how would you
agree
work to ensure, I'm sorry, transparency between the sheriff's department and the community?
For one, I agree with Pete Hedrick. I mean, for one, we will work on finding a better strategy to provide timely responses to all public records requests. I will focus on what the community wants to know rather than what them to know, because it's not about me, it's about the community. I will keep an open line of communication, and I will keep our community informed of any concerns as they arise.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Sheriff Whidden, same question to you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, first of all, how to ensure transparency. I think I've been the most transparent sheriff that we've ever had. Again, my phone number is on my Facebook page for everyone to see. They call me. I get calls all night long about everything. Social media, it's very important because people get on there. If they have an issue, they tag me, I see it, I address it immediately, and I converse back and forth and we figure it out. The body cameras, I mean, nothing is more transparent than a body camera. And they know that if something happens, I can see it and I can't deny it, So we're the most transparent agency that has ever been in this office. But I want to go back to something real quick.
Okay.
I've been in office for over 11 years and I've never heard any citizen say, Sheriff, I want to see your budget. I've never heard, it's never been an issue. It's over at the Board of County Commission. Anybody can go on there and see our budget and line item by line item. It's not an issue. I think the only people that want to make it an issue are candidates. So again, we've been the most transparent sheriff that I think has ever been here. I have an open door. People call me day and night. All my personal information is on Facebook and social media, where if you have a problem, you can call me any day, anytime, day or night. So I just don't see the budget. I mean, if people want me to put the budget on the website, I can do it. But again, I've never had one citizen in Hendry County come up and say, Sheriff, I'm upset. I want to see what your budget is. I can't find it. Well, again, it's right there at the BOCC. If you want to see the budget, it's right there. So if Mr. Hedrick can't find it, then I don't know what to tell him. But again, I just want to tell everybody out there, be careful of candidates that come in, especially from out of county, because they've never lived here. They've never worked here. They don't know what we face. They don't know our criminal element. They don't know our financial constraint. I don't know that Mr. Hedrick's ever been. I don't know that Mr. Hedrick's ever been to a Board of County Commission meeting. And again, if you want all these deputies and raises, then get ready for your taxes to go through the roof. So, but they can't argue our crime rate.
Okay, that's time. Thank you, sir. Mr. Hedrick, this next question begins with you. Are you aware of the threats that have been made on the internet by coastal activist groups against our rural communities? Some of these threats included calls to blow up the dike or blow up the sugar mill, and in one case, bring a gun to shoot at our citizens. As sheriff, how will you plan to monitor threats like these and take action if necessary?
After 26 years in law enforcement, I'm aware of, I'm accustomed to these types of threats. These specific threats, yes, I've heard of them. I've talked to people in the community, and when they occurred years ago, knew what their concerns were and how worried they were about them. So when you get a threat like this, what you do is you vet it. You use your state, local, and federal partners. I've worked with the FBI. I've worked with Homeland Security. So I know their abilities to find out and dig down through these threats. My wife is a criminal analyst here at the Sheriff's Department, so I'm very well aware of what we can do and what our capabilities are. But I think it also goes down to partnerships. If you work well with other departments, Clewiston and surrounding counties, you should be able to easily sit there and vet these threats and say, look, are they real? Is it something that we need to be worried about? You take every threat seriously. And then once you've investigated and you find out if it is something you need to do, then you investigate it further. And if need be, you make an arrest. But I think just the awareness of being able to watch social media and pay attention to what's going on.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Salgado, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I read a Facebook post about maybe 2 years ago and never seen or heard anything further. However, as sheriff, I will take each and every threat as credible threat and until proof otherwise. I will use every resource available and work closely with agencies at local, state, and federal levels, as well as community leaders to ensure that everyone is kept informed and safe at all times.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Sheriff Whidden, the same question to you.
Yes, ma'am. As you know, we've had several threats over the past few years regarding the lake and the dike and, algae and whatnot. But
Right.
we work very closely. A lot of the threats actually come out of the Palm Beach County area or the East Coast. So we've been able to work very closely with Palm Beach County, Homeland Security, the FBI. We work with their analysts to determine if the subjects possess, the actual means and the intent to carry out a threat, or if it's just an empty promise, so to speak. So, if specific verbiage is used in these threats and we can determine that it's real, we make an arrest immediately. We take them very, very serious. And again, I'm not just talking that what I would do. I'm telling you what we have done. And we get on these threats quickly, and we monitor them, and we work it accordingly with state and local and federal agencies.
Sorry, I muted myself. Thank you, Sheriff Whidden. Mr. Jackson, the same question to you in regards to those threats.
Yes, as sheriff, I will have an investigator that can monitor the Facebook, the internet, and so forth. And as we monitor, we come up with a plan, whether they is true or not. We'll come up with a plan of how we will react to it if it happened to come about. And our plan is come up with the training that goes along with it, and also with getting in contact with the like Steve Whidden said, the local and the federal people. Also, we'll get together with Clewiston Police Department along with the fire department and the ambulance in case we do have something to come up, and how we could respond to it.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. So now I have some of our staff here is helping me comb through some of our Facebook questions. I do believe we've had quite a bit of folks on the feed this morning, which is great. That's the point. And like I said, it's going to remain there so people can go back and watch it on their own time. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. Just if I were you all, I would go in and monitor that Facebook as you can, because there will be questions that we don't ask, that we can't get to, that maybe they come in tonight when this is over. But you, as each individual candidates, can go in there and answer these folks. And I think that would be very valuable for each of you to try to do. Again, that's just sort of my opinion, but do we have any good questions that we want to use? Yes, so on Facebook Live, don't email them, it'll take a minute. If you want to just print it, that would, oh, okay. Well, then just take a picture of it and hand me my phone back. Sorry, guys. Our technical staff just isn't working the greatest today, which is the perfect day for that to happen, but that's okay. We improvise. To our Facebook folks that are watching, you'll notice that each and every question that we asked, we allowed all the candidates to answer. If there are questions on our Facebook that are directed to only one specific candidate, or something that might be a little negative, we're trying to be informative but stay kind and positive, and not call out any one candidate. So if you asked a question like that, there's a possibility that specific candidate may get on and answer that on their own, but the ones that we're going to focus on are ones that we can, that everyone can answer. So it's on its way to me. Just give me 2 seconds. Can I just see it from your side? Yeah. Okay, so again, we will start with, we'll just go back to our original order. I'm in the process of unmuting Mr. Jackson. The question is going to be, and now mind you, these are kind of off the cuff, so let's see what we've got here. How do you define racism, and is that definition reflected in the patrol and policing of certain areas where minorities live?
Say that one more time.
How do you define racism? And is that definition reflected in the patrol and policing of certain areas where minorities live?
Racism is something that is installed in people. It's not something that you were born with. Racism and the community as well. I wouldn't say so. I would say that the lack of patrolling in certain area and the way that the deputy when they do respond to the community as far as whether they Hispanic or Black, doesn't take it, to me, it doesn't take it seriously. Most time that when Black or Hispanic community make a call to the sheriff department, and upon arrival of the deputy, most deputies treat them as the defendant instead of the victim.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Mr. Hedrick, how do you define racism, and is that definition reflected in the patrol and policing of certain areas where minorities live?
Racism to me is treating people unfairly based on their color of their skin. Treating them differently, not giving them the same level of service. And there's two issues, I think, when you look at it from a patrol service. It's underutilization, not putting people in places based on either the economics of the area or the racial makeup. And then there's sometimes you can have the same issue when you over patrol a place, where you're seen as oppressors, where you put so much police presence in an area and you make unnecessary or unneeded arrests, where you are seen as more harassing people instead of to be there to help. But I think, again, that all comes down to perception, the people's perception in the community, and the sheriff's department has to be very careful when they go there with great intentions, but they have to be able to get out of the car and make contact with people. The more that we can get out and talk to people, I think that officers and the community will find out very quickly there's many more things that bring us together than will ever separate us, but it requires us to get out of the car and talk to each other and see the things that bring us together instead of the things that separate us. So I think that the opportunity to make connections with all the community is there. I think we just have to be careful of what our perceptions are and what people think of us and how we're presenting ourselves to them.
Thank you so much. Mr. Salgado, same question to you. How do you define racism, and what is the definition reflected in the patrol and policing of certain areas where minorities reside or live?
Well, I define it as unfair treatment based on color, economic status, religion, and it happens everywhere. And the fact that we choose to patrol certain areas and not all speaks volumes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Whidden, same question to you. How do you define racism, and is the definition reflected in the patrol and policing of certain areas where minorities live?
Well, the actual definition of racism is the belief that one race is superior to another. And no, it is not reflected in where and how we patrol. The sheriff's job is to fight crime, and we go wherever the crime rate is. We focus on higher crime rate areas than not until the crime gets, down to where it's no longer there. I want to point out that, one luxury that all these candidates that you're hearing today have over the sheriff is that they can tell you whatever they think you want to hear. They can make accusations up. Mr. Jackson just made a statement that, when we show up in his community, well, I mean, I thought Hendry County was his community, but he's talking about Harlem, that we treat the victims like defendants. And, again, I go back to the accountability and the transparency of my agency and the body cameras. He can make those accusations but he can't, he doesn't want me to challenge him on that, because I can bring him in and let him pick out any video of any time in in the Harlem community or anywhere else and see how our deputies are treating people. You know, one reason that I've been reelected 3 times now is because I'm transparent and I demand that we treat people with respect. So just keep in mind when you hear these candidates talking, they can tell you whatever they think they want to hear, but in reality, it's not the case. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Whidden. It looks like a lot of the questions, you know, maybe folks were posting them as we were going through our, well, clearly they were posting them as we were going through our event. It looks like we touched on a lot of them on our own. But again, I want to remind you guys to go back to this post. There are other questions on here. Unfortunately, I don't have time to ask them all live on Facebook, and I'm sure you guys are like, whew, thank goodness. But go back to this post and interact with, you know, these are your voters that are watching and asking questions of you all. So go back to this post and try to connect with what could be your constituents, you know. Anyway, I'm going to now unmute you in order, starting with Mr. Jackson, Mr. Hedrick, Mr. Salgado, and Sheriff Whidden, and allow you guys 2 minutes to speak directly to your voters. I will let you know, Mr. Jackson, when you actually say, there you go, you are unmuted.
Hello, everyone. My name is, once again, Johnny Jackson. Born and raised in Henry County, which is close to the Harlem area. I have 29 years in law enforcement. The reason I'm running is that I'm concerned not just for my community, but for entire Henry County, for the safety, to make their community as safe as they would like it to be. I'm running on because I have 29 years in law enforcement. I started my career with Henry County, and I want to make a difference. I want to make a difference, and not just in your community, but in your life. I'll be one of the sheriffs that I work as sheriff, that you may see me show up to a complaint one day. You will see me out and about. You will see me in not in just my community, but Henry County as well, from the Pioneer to the Montour to LaBelle. I will be that sheriff that have the open door policy. I will be that sheriff that will answer your complaint. I'll be that sheriff that will get involved with every community within Henry County.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hedrick, you are unmuted and it is your turn.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for hosting this today. I know it was a lot of work, and I think it's important that the people of Hendry County invest their time to see who they think should be the next sheriff, because it's a very important decision. If you look at just the city of Clewiston, if we held ourselves to just picking candidates that are just from within the confines of Hendry County, would you have the same city manager that you have now? These are important decisions. You need to be able to find the best candidate for Hendry County, the one that can provide you the most professional service that they can. I think if you look at some of the things that I'd like to change is the deputy to supervisor ratio. Currently, it's 1.38 deputies to every supervisor. This weighs the department down. It costs extra money. It doesn't allow us to put the right people on the street at the right time. When he's talking about being transparent, there's a video right now out on the internet that's been out there for several years of one of his lieutenants using a racial word against people. And the person, to my knowledge, wasn't punished. In fact, he was promoted twice after this. So these videos, the videos of the shooting that just happened in LaBelle, he wants to be transparent, but people are still waiting to hear what's going on with that investigation. And not necessarily the one that's being handled by FDLE, but the concurrent criminal investigation that should have been running. Why haven't we been transparent? Why aren't we hearing what's going on with these investigations? These are things that I think that the people of Hendry County deserve. As a professional sheriff, I want to bring better hiring to the department so that we know that the people that we put a badge on are going to represent us, and that they don't have backgrounds that we can all be proud of. There'll be no Brady cops on my department when we get there. Everybody will be able to raise their right hand and go in court and testify. This is what we need to be able to have at the sheriff's department. I will bring professionalism and a sheriff's department that everybody can be proud of.
All right, that's time. Thank you so much. Mr. Salgado, your final 2 minutes.
First of all, I want to just give a little bit about myself. I'm a 30-year resident of Hendry County. I attended Clueston Public Schools where I met my wife, Anna, and I have been married for 18 years and have 3 children. We have also taken another 3 from within our community. I need you to know that as your sheriff, one thing that I will work tirelessly for is a better relationship between the sheriff department and the citizens of Hendry County. We can make such a huge difference if we pull together and become one community with a shared vision. And when I say community, I'm talking of all Hendry County. Right now, we are drastically improve our professionalism, relationship with our surrounding agencies and all citizens of Hendry County. I would treat any of your family members as they were my own, and I would expect each of my deputies to do the same at all times. Because of this, my door will always be open to the public. I want to hear you out. I want to know your concerns, suggestions you may have. To bring me to a regular concern and question that I have been approached with lately. You're too young. What experience can you possibly have to run that department? Well, I am 39 and I can sit here today and say I'm old enough to have watched our community grow and decline drastically at the same time. Yes, I may be younger than the average person running for a position like sheriff. And yes, to some, I even look younger than my actual age. But please rest assured, I'm experienced in this line of work. But most importantly, I'm courteous, honest, and fair. To touch up on an early answer provided during my 15 years at the Glades County Sheriff Office, I have learned what's required and expected of various areas of the Sheriff Department. And being experienced in all these various areas are what guarantees the successful operation of an agency as a whole. Listen, if you're hungry for an experienced leader that is fair and want the unity that our community deserves, you'll let the power of your voice be heard and vote Tico for Hendry County Sheriff in August and again in November.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado. And Sheriff Whidden, your final 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I want to talk about my opponent I have in August. Mr. Hedrick, he's a super nice guy. I really like talking to Pete, and it's no fault to his own, but he's not from here. He doesn't live here. He's never worked here. He's hearing rumors around on this and that, and he doesn't know. He put out this flyer here that mailed out to everybody, and everything on this flyer, we are already doing everything. But again, it's no fault to his own. He just doesn't know. He talks about the supervisor rate. I don't know where he's getting his numbers. The actual supervisor to subordinate average ratio throughout the United States is 1 supervisor to 5 to 7 subordinates for good supervision. Our numbers here are 1 supervisor to 6.5 subordinates. That's the actual number, not some number he's made up. I want to talk about the budget. He says, oh, well, the sheriff has to carry this, going up 20%. Well, no, I don't, because what people judge the sheriff on is what he has caused the budget to go up. These mandatory increases that are outside of my control are going to get hit no matter who's sheriff. As a matter of fact, the Board of County Commission gets hit with the same mandatory increases. So I have only increased our budget 1.9%. Yet in 11 years, we've had a 47.5% decline in crime. Now, these candidates can tell you whatever they think you want to hear. They can't argue those numbers. Am I perfect? No. Am I the best looking candidate out there? Absolutely not. However, you can't argue the fact that I keep your tax dollars in your pocket and I keep lowering the crime rate every year, especially in places like where Mr. Salgado lives in Montura. We keep lowering the crime rate there. So I just want people to know that, I'm all about transparency and stability in office. And one of the reasons we're able to get a foothold is because I'm the first sheriff reelected here in like 35 years consecutively. So we need to keep that stability in office. I want to thank you for having us on. And I want to ask the voters out there humbly for your support and your vote on August 18th. Thank you.
That's time. Thank you. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know it took time out of your day, doing your jobs and things like that. But we really, as the Chamber of Commerce, we really appreciate you guys joining us. As always with our candidate forums, our goal is not to sway anyone any certain direction, but simply to make sure that everyone is making their most educated choice. So thank you for joining us. And we look forward to early voting starting on Monday and the upcoming August election, and then seeing who makes it through to the general election in the fall, or in November. But thank you guys. If the chamber can be of any assistance to you, don't hesitate to let us know. And again, reminder, check the comments. I'm like pointing below because that's how it works on the Facebook world. Check the comments below and talk to your constituents. It's very, very valuable for each and every one of you. So thank you. And I hope you all have a great day. Bye.